it's Catherine. I'm back. It's been a while. It's spring. Spring has sprung. Easter has passed. My son's 20th birthday has passed. And it's time to talk about rapid weight loss, or even better, rapid fat loss. Back when I had Gordon's studio, I ran these 6-week transformation contests, and we consistently saw a 10-pound weight loss over the course of 6 weeks. However, I just recently got a question on Quora from a gal who has a modeling gig in 3 weeks, and she's asking, how can I lose 10 pounds in 3 weeks? Now here is where the trouble begins. When we try to push too hard and we try to lose too fast, a lot of times what we have is what I call backfiring. We try to cut too hard and work too hard, and then we end up either getting swollen or getting injured or getting ravenously hungry. So here's what I have found over 12 years of training people to lose fat, and yes, also to lose weight. What tends to happen is the most effective programs include your thinking, your planning, your eating, of course, and your movement, your training. And the most effective forms of training, resistance training with intervals, the problem is that very often when we start a program of resistance training, we end up getting sore, retaining water, and what we often find is you can gain weight over the first 4 weeks. I've trained, hundreds of people, and I've taken so many people through a 6-week transformation that now sometimes we see people losing 5 pounds in the first week and then consistently losing more weight. But very often when you've got folks coming in and really focusing on their lifting and doing these body transformation exercises that they need to do in order to at least retain muscle, maybe even build muscle and lose fat so that they shrink, very often what we see is that in these first 4 weeks, you're not going to see any weight loss at all because you may be experiencing water retention from the soreness that you get from training. However, I am going to give her an answer. I'm not going to give you a way to lose 10 pounds in 3 weeks. I can't do that. I can help you lose 10 pounds in 6 weeks. What I can do is talk about, I was an actor, and I actually still am a stage actor for many years, and very often we would get in situations where you had a photo shoot or you had an audition and you wanted to look your best in a couple of days. So what I would tell this young woman who has a modeling gig is that in 2 weeks we can do some things to make sure that you're looking your best and that you're keeping it as tight as you can. And then definitely in the last 3 days, there are some things that you can do to make sure that you're going into either that photo shoot or that modeling job or that interview or that audition looking your best. Number 1 is the tonic. You know, I tell people to drink this tonic every day, and it's a tablespoon of Bragg's apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon of lemon juice in enough water. You don't want to drink it straight because that could damage your tooth enamel, so enough water. And then after the tonic, and why the tonic? I have found it manages appetite, it increases good digestion, and it definitely has a diuretic effect, and it also has a pro-digestion effect, if you catch my drift. So really, really positive to drink the tonic. And then on top of the tonic, 4 glasses of water a day. Here's the deal with water. A lot of people who are doing bodybuilding competitions and things like that will do these, these water techniques where you're drinking a whole lot of water and then all of a sudden before the competition, you'll cut that water down. I don't know how to do that. I can't tell you how to do that. But what I can tell you is drink enough water to stay hydrated without getting waterlogged. So you don't want to be, if you're trying to push that water too hard, like tonic and then 8 big glasses of water on top of that or a gallon of water on top of that. Once again, I find if you're pushing too hard, if you're trying too hard, a lot of times these things backfire. So I would say just to be sensible, drink the tonic and then add 4 glasses of water on top of that. Then adequate protein and pulling the fat back just a little bit. You may know if you watched my channel that I've been doing carnivore on and off, sometimes more consistently for the last 3 years now. And I have found that eating enough fat keeps me emotionally on track, keeps me feeling really good. However, if I wanted to lean out for something, whether it was a show or a job or something like that, I would pull back on the fat and probably increase the protein. So I'd do some rebalancing. The best way I can describe that would be trade ribeyes for top sirloin. And one of the easiest ways you can figure out if you're getting your adequate protein is go to an app like FitDay. And I would say you're looking at about 1 gram of protein a day for your ideal body weight. So, and then also manage calories. The problem is if you try to cut calories, a lot of times, once again, you get this backfire effect where you get so hungry that you end up overeating. So what I would say is make sure that you're getting adequate protein, not too much fat, which is going to manage your appetite, which will automatically manage your calories. But on top of that, especially if you've got an important event coming up, go ahead and go to an app like FitDay or one of the apps and choose a level. Go ahead and don't go beyond a certain amount of calories that you know work for you. Here's the way I put it. Calories count, but content counts more. So I believe that what is in your diet, and for me, that's going to be adequate protein, adequate fat. Obviously, when I'm going carnivore, I'm not going to be eating the vegetables that grow above the ground. But when I'm not, vegetables that grow above the ground, in other words, low sugar vegetables. So within that amount, you can pay attention to how much you're eating. And what I have found is over years of experience, because I went through my transformation way back in 2008, I know that I can lean out at 1,350 a day, 1,350. And remember, I'm only 5'1". And I really haven't seen, although other people recommend it, I haven't seen anybody who really needs to go below 1,200 a day if they're eating adequate protein and they're getting adequate movement. So there's your nutrition. So if you're not someone who needs to go carnivore in order to manage things like insulin resistance, like me, you're probably going to be able to eat vegetables that grow above the ground. And if you keep the amount that you're eating within the right ballpark, how do you find that out? Well, you can go online and find out what your resting metabolic rate is. And that will give you a guideline for your age and for your height and for your weight, a guideline about how much you should be eating. And oh my goodness, we could go into so much conversation about eating below your RMR. We're not going to go into that today because we're just basically talking about what you can do to look your best when you've got a short period of time. So one more time, adequate protein, a little bit less fat, and vegetables that grow above the ground. The other thing that I do that works really, really well is I keep my eating to a 16-8. So I've got that 8-hour window and I eat 2 meals a day. So I'm making sure that I've got that full 16 hours to get my insulin down, to get everything digested, get my body down, let it burn some fat, especially overnight, before I feed it again in the morning. And what works for me is a meal in the morning and then a meal at midday. And I think a lot of that has to do with my theater background. When you know you're going to the theater and you've got rehearsal, you're going to be dancing at night in front of an audience, you're going to want to be having your main meals before that so you're not out there trying to perform and entertain on a really full stomach. In other words, adequate nutrition, but not going out there on stage on a really full stomach. And then finally, in those 3 days before your photo shoot or your audition, your modeling job, whatever it happens to be, really noticing what are the foods that help you release water, even in terms of things like some diuretic vegetables, which for me happen to be things like parsley, mushrooms, celery. For other people, they might be different vegetables. For example, I do really well with, squash and zucchini, but I don't do well, obviously, with things like, even tomatoes. I used to be able to eat more tomatoes, and now I find that they do make me retain water. I can do well with broccoli, but not so well with Brussels sprouts. So that's so really important that you know whatever the carbs are that you're eating and the vegetables that you're eating, you need to know what works for you. Also, when I was younger and I was still doing well with, low sugar fruits, I could eat things like melon and grapefruit and Granny Smith apples. But once again, this is what's so important. You know that my motto is eat for yourself. And so you have to really keep track of, and I write down what I'm going to eat every day. And that way I know what are the foods that work for me and what are the foods that don't. So that's the idea. Go to Fit Day, make sure you're getting adequate protein. And then finally, I think the most important adjustment that I would make if I wanted to lean out for something is that adjustment, a little bit more protein, a little bit less fat, even to the point where I might be, instead of having 3 whole eggs or 2 whole eggs, I might have a whole egg and some egg whites, and doing like a leaner ground beef or things like that, and just paying attention to what works for you and having a history. Because if you're going to go into an industry or work where your physical shape and appearance is important, it is wise for you to start writing down what you're eating, start learning what serves you in terms of your nutrition so that you can look and feel your best. But I will finish this video with this concept of, I do think that it is time for us to start, as much as possible, moving beyond some of this materialistic attitude about that appearance is the most important thing about us. Steve Martin had a wonderful phrase called, "You have to be so good that they can't ignore you." And when we look at performers, female performers, the greatest singers, the greatest comedians, the greatest actors, you will find that they manage to work and do their work without necessarily being the prettiest girl in the room. So I think that that's the thing I want to leave us with the most when it comes to your nutrition. Really pay attention to what allows you to perform and do the things that you love. All right, what we're going to be doing now, though, is I am going to be offering a program which I really believe can work. And what I'm working on is the 9s, a 9-week program that's going to be 3 weeks to get started, where we're not training too hard, where we're learning the lifts. And then 6 weeks, that's going to be more like what I used to do at my studio. And then also along with that, Sugar Freedom Nutrition, where you get to decide how much you want to cut sugar, cut carbs, all the way from low carb, all the way to carnivore, if that's what you choose. Thank you for being with me in the Sugar Freedom Kitchen. I hope you will like, share, and subscribe. Sugar Freedom is available at sugarfreedom.com. And until next time, be well and eat for yourself. Take care, everybody.